The city burned under a moonless sky. Smoke coiled through shattered buildings like serpents, and the staccato rhythm of distant gunfire punctuated the night. Concrete dust hung thick in the air, coating everything in a pale gray shroud. Lieutenant Commander Nathan Cross pressed himself against a crumbling wall, his SEAL team scattered among the rubble of what had once been a textile factory. They'd walked straight into an ambush, 3 men down, ammunition running low, and enemy forces closing in from 2 directions. "We need eyes on that ridge," Nathan barked into his comms. Anyone got a visual on a figure emerged from the shadows. Small frame, muddy fatigues that hung slightly loose. Dark hair pulled back in a severe bun. She moved through the debris field with the fluid grace of someone who understood terrain instinctively. "Who the hell are you?" Sergeant Marcus Brennan challenged, raising his rifle halfway. The woman stopped, her eyes pale gray in the dim light fixed on Marcus with an unsettling calm. She didn't speak, just pulled a worn notebook from her vest pocket and showed him a page. Clearance codes, official orders, assignment, tactical overwatch. "You're the sniper they sent." Marcus laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off broken walls. "You don't even look like a soldier, let alone a sniper." She tucked the notebook away without comment. Her movements were economical, precise. She carried a customized M24 rifle, its stock wrapped in desert camouflage tape that had seen better days. Nathan studied her for a long moment. The brass had mentioned support was coming, but he'd expected someone from Delta or another SEAL unit. Not this silent woman who looked like she should be teaching literature at a small college, not stalking war zones. "Can you shoot?" he asked bluntly. Her gaze shifted to him. Something cold flickered behind those gray eyes, something that made Nathan's instincts prickle. "Where do you need me?" Her voice was low, controlled, no emotion, no inflection. "North Tower, 3rd floor. We need intel on enemy positions," and she was already moving before he finished, disappearing into the skeletal remains of a stairwell with barely a sound. Marcus spat onto the rubble. "That's what they send us now? A ghost who probably can't even carry her own rifle up 3 flights? Nathan ignored him, but doubt gnawed at the back of his mind. They were pinned down in hostile territory with limited ammunition and reinforcements hours away. He needed a competent marksman, not a bureaucratic checkbox assignment. The radio crackled. Her voice, flat and professional. "Overwatch in position. Count 12 hostiles. North approach. 2 heavy machine guns. Recommend suppression fire on your mark." At least she could spot. That was something. "Hold position," Nathan ordered. "Do not engage without my direct." The night split with the crack of a single rifle shot. Then silence. Nathan's heart lurched. Had she just disobeyed a direct order? Her voice came through the comms again, still unnervingly calm. "Lead gunner eliminated. Secondary targets repositioning. You have a corridor, southeast. 30 seconds. Marcus stared at Nathan, eyes wide. "Did she just move?" Nathan commanded. "Everyone, southeast corridor, now." They reached the relative safety of an underground maintenance tunnel, breathing hard. The enemy fire had ceased momentarily, confusion rippling through the opposing forces after their gunner dropped. The woman descended from the tower 10 minutes later, rifle slung across her back, expression unchanged. She'd killed a man, possibly saved their lives, and showed less emotion than someone returning from a coffee run. Marcus confronted her immediately. "You fired without authorization. That's a court-martial offense, lady. I don't care what clearance you have." She looked at him with those unsettling eyes. "Your commander needed an opening. I provided one. By ignoring orders? By completing the mission." Nathan stepped between them. "Stand down, both of you." He turned to the woman. "What's your name?" "Oposa." "Classified. Your call sign then." Another pause, longer this time. "You don't need it yet." Marcus laughed bitterly. "Oh, this is perfect. We're supposed to trust our lives to someone who won't even tell us her name?" "You don't have to trust me," she said quietly. "You just have to let me do my job." Nathan made a command decision. "Fine. You'll work with us on the extraction. But you follow orders. No independent action. Clear?" She nodded once, a minimal acknowledgement. They moved through the tunnel system, heading toward the extraction point 3 clicks east. The woman Nathan mentally referred to her as Ghost, for lack of a better designation, took point position without being asked. She seemed to navigate the darkness by instinct, never faltering, never needing to check their tactical map. When they emerged into an abandoned warehouse district, dawn was bleeding pink across the horizon. They were making good time. Then the ambush came. Muzzle flashes erupted from second-story windows. The team scattered, diving behind overturned vehicles and industrial equipment. Nathan returned fire, but the enemy had superior positioning and numbers. "We're too exposed," Marcus shouted over the chaos. "We need to fall back." The woman had taken cover behind a concrete pillar. Nathan saw her adjust her scope, her breathing slowing to an almost meditative rhythm. Her finger rested on the trigger guard, not the trigger itself, a mark of training and discipline. "Don't," Nathan warned her. "There are too many. You'll just draw their fire." She didn't respond. Her eye pressed to the scope. One breath, two breaths. Then she fired. A hostile dropped from a window. She worked the bolt, fired again. Another body fell. The enemy fire faltered, confusion spreading through their ranks. They couldn't locate the shooter. Ghost had positioned herself in shadow, her muzzle flash concealed by the pillar's angle. 3 more shots, 3 more targets eliminated. Her movements were mechanical, efficient, utterly without hesitation or remorse. The remaining hostiles retreated. Nathan stared at her as she calmly reloaded. "Who trained you?" She glanced at him. "People who understood that war doesn't care about feelings." Something in her tone made Nathan's chest tighten. This wasn't just a soldier. This was someone forged in fire. That night, they secured a defensive position in an abandoned hospital. While Marcus and the others slept in shifts, Nathan found Ghost on the roof, cleaning her rifle with methodical precision. "Can't sleep?" he asked, settling onto the concrete beside her. "Sleep is a luxury." She didn't look up from her work. "I learned that a long time ago." Nathan watched her hands move, confident, practiced, almost ritualistic. "How long have you been doing this?" 4 years, 3 months, 16 days. The specificity caught him off guard. "That's exact. That's how long it's been since I stopped being someone else." He waited, sensing she was on the edge of sharing something. The night wind carried the smell of distant fires and chemical smoke. "I was studying medicine," she said finally, her voice softer than he'd heard before. "Johns Hopkins, 2nd year. I was going to be a trauma surgeon." Nathan felt his assumptions shift. "What changed?" "Everything." She paused, her hands stilling on the rifle. "I went home for winter break. My parents lived in a small town, the kind where everyone knows everyone. Safe, quiet." Her jaw tightened. There was a market near the town square. My mother liked to shop there every Saturday morning. My father would go with her, complain about her spending, then buy her flowers anyway. My little brother, he was 8, he'd run ahead, look at the toys. Nathan already knew how this story ended. He'd heard too many versions of it. "It was supposed to be a military target," she continued, her voice mechanical now, reciting facts to keep the emotion at bay. "A communication hub 3 blocks away. But someone miscalculated, or maybe they just didn't care. The missile hit the market instead." She resumed cleaning her rifle. 43 people died, including my entire family. I was supposed to be there too, but my flight got delayed. She looked up at the stars, cold and distant above the war zone. "For weeks, I couldn't figure out why I survived. Then I realized I didn't. The person I was died in that market. What crawled out of the grief was something else." "So you joined the military?" "I tried. They said I was too traumatized, too angry. Sent me to counselors who wanted me to process my feelings and move forward." A bitter smile crossed her face. "I didn't want to move forward. I wanted to make sure no one else's family died because of miscalculations." "Then you found another way." She nodded. "There are programs, unofficial, for people like me. People who have nothing left to lose and everything to give. They called it Silent Arrow. We trained for 18 months. Not just combat skills, psychology, ethics, the weight of taking a life." She met his eyes. "They wanted to make sure we understood the difference between justice and revenge." "And do you?" Nathan asked quietly. She was silent for a long moment. "Every day, I try to." The mission brief came through at 0600 hours. "Infiltrate Hill 47, eliminate enemy command structure, extract intelligence on incoming offensive operations. High-value target, high casualty probability." Nathan gathered his team in the hospital's basement surgery room, spreading tactical maps across a rusted operating table. Ghost stood apart from the group, as she always did, but her attention was absolute. "Hill 47 is their regional command center," Nathan explained, pointing to the topographical map. "Fortified positions, multiple weapon emplacements, approximately 60 hostile combatants. Intelligence suggests their commanding officer, Colonel Dmitry Volkov, is planning a major push against civilian refugee corridors. Marcus frowned. Sir, with all respect, that's a suicide mission. We're 5 operators against a fortified position, which is why we're doing this smart. Nathan traced a route on the map. We approach from the eastern ridge under cover of darkness. Ghost will take position here. He indicated a rocky outcrop half a click from the compound and provide overwatch while we infiltrate. Ghost stepped forward, studying the map with clinical intensity. That sightline is compromised by these 2 guard towers. I'll need to reposition here. She pointed to a more exposed location. It gives me coverage of the compound entrance and the communications building. That position leaves you completely exposed, Nathan countered. Yes. If they spot you, they won't. The certainty in her voice brooked no argument. Marcus shook his head in disbelief, but Nathan had seen her work now. She moved like smoke, killed like winter, silent and inevitable. You'll need to move ahead of us, Nathan said. Get in position by 2100 hours. We'll advance once you confirm the route is clear. She nodded, already mentally calculating angles and distances. They moved out at sunset, the sky bruising purple and gold above the devastated cityscape. Ghost separated from the group after the first kilometer, vanishing into the terrain like she'd never existed. Nathan led his team through the foothills, using dried riverbeds and destroyed farmland for concealment. The enemy had patrols everywhere, 2-man teams sweeping predictable patterns. Sloppy, but numerous enough to be dangerous. At 2055 hours, Ghost's voice whispered through the comms. Overwatch established. Count 3 patrols in your approach vector. Recommend hold position. Nathan signaled his team to freeze. They pressed into the shadows of a collapsed barn, barely breathing. Minutes passed. 5, 10. Then Ghost spoke again. Patrol pattern shifting. Window opening in 30 seconds. Move on my mark. Nathan watched the darkness, seeing nothing, but he trusted her eyes more than his own now. Mark. They moved, a tight formation sprinting across open ground. Nathan's heart hammered, every instinct screaming that they were exposed, vulnerable. But no shots came. Clear, Ghost confirmed. Next checkpoint in 200 meters. You have 90 seconds before the next patrol cycle. They were halfway to the compound when everything went wrong. A dog barked something the intelligence report hadn't mentioned. Then shouts in Russian. Floodlights blazed to life, turning night into noon. They'd been compromised. Contact. Multiple hostiles. Marcus opened fire, dropping 2 guards running toward their position. Nathan's mind raced. They were caught in the open, pinned between the compound's outer defenses and the patrols closing from behind. Standard tactics would be to retreat, regroup, abort the mission. But Ghost's voice cut through the chaos. Still calm. Don't move. Stay exactly where you are. Are you insane? Marcus shouted. We're sitting ducks. Trust me. Don't move. Nathan made the call. Everyone freeze. Hold position. It felt like suicide. Searchlights swept across their location. Enemy soldiers poured from the compound. They were seconds from being overrun. Then Ghost opened fire. The first searchlight exploded in a shower of glass and sparks. Then the second, darkness crashed back over them like a wave. Confusion erupted among the enemy forces. They'd trained to fight in the light, not sudden blindness. Some fired randomly, hitting their own people. Ghost's voice remained steady. Marcus, 11 o'clock, 4 meters. Nathan, 3 o'clock, 8 meters. Move now. Nathan moved on instinct, trusting her guidance. His hand found Marcus's shoulder, pulling his team into a defensive cluster. Ghost continued calling shots. Hostile advancing. You're 2 o'clock. Firing. The crack of her rifle. A body hit the ground 15 feet from Nathan's position. Second target, 9 o'clock. Firing. Another enemy dropped. She was shooting in near total darkness, identifying targets by sound and movement, calculating trajectories in her head. It should have been impossible. Nathan had trained with the best snipers in the military, and none of them could do what she was doing. Generator building, southwest corner, she directed. 20-meter sprint. You have 15 seconds. They ran. Bullets chewed up the ground behind them. Someone screamed a hostile, not one of theirs. Ghost was providing covering fire with surgical precision, each shot eliminating a threat before it materialized. They reached the generator building, pressing against its concrete walls. Nathan's hands were shaking with adrenaline. Jesus Christ, Marcus breathed. She just saved our asses. Status report. Nathan commanded into his comms. 5 hostiles eliminated, Ghost replied. compound is aware of your presence but uncertain of your location. They're organizing a grid search. You have approximately 4 minutes before they sweep your sector. Can you see a route to the command center? A pause. Nathan could almost hear her thinking. Processing variables. Yes. But it requires passing through the vehicle depot. No cover. 50-meter exposure. That's suicide. Not if I provide continuous suppression. Her voice held something new, not quite emotion, but perhaps the shadow of it. I can keep them pinned long enough for you to cross. But you need to move fast. Nathan looked at his team. They were exhausted, low on ammunition, and terrified. But they were also professionals. And they just witnessed something extraordinary. We trust you, Nathan said into the comms. For the first time since they'd met, he heard something in her voice that might have been surprise. Copy that, Commander. On my signal. They reached the command center and extracted the intelligence-detailed maps of the planned offensive, communication codes, and evidence that Colonel Volkov was coordinating with terrorist cells targeting civilian populations. It was worse than they'd thought, but extraction was going to be hell. The compound was fully alert now, soldiers everywhere, patrols quadrupled. Nathan led his team through maintenance tunnels beneath the facility, emerging into the valley on the compound's southern approach. Dawn was breaking, turning the sky the color of old bruises. They needed to reach the extraction point before full light, when helicopters could safely enter the hot zone. They were crossing a narrow valley when the world exploded. Mortar fire rained from the ridges on both sides. The enemy had anticipated their escape route, positioned heavy weapons to create a kill box. They'd walked straight into a trap. Cover! Nathan screamed, diving behind a burned-out vehicle, but there was no cover. The valley floor was barren, exposed. Mortar rounds walked closer with each salvo. They had maybe 30 seconds before a direct hit ended everything. Ghost's voice crackled through the comms. I see them. 6 mortar positions, 3 per ridge. Range is extreme but possible. You can't take out 6 positions before they kill us. Marcus shouted. No, she agreed. But I can confuse them. Nathan had no idea what she meant. Then he heard a sharp crack from Ghost's position. But the impact came nowhere near the enemy mortars. Instead, dirt exploded near one of the mortar teams, close enough to make them think they were under fire from a different direction. She was creating chaos. Another shot. Another misdirection. The mortar team started repositioning, uncertain where the threat was coming from. Their fire became erratic, disorganized. Run, Ghost commanded. Northeast, toward the rock formation. Now, they ran. Nathan's lungs burned, his legs screaming. Mortar rounds continued to fall, but Ghost was manipulating the enemy's targeting, using sound and debris to create false signatures. They were 50 meters from cover when a round landed directly in their path. The shockwave lifted Nathan off his feet, slamming him into rocky ground. His ears rang. Blood ran down his face. Marcus pulled him up. Go, go, go. They scrambled over loose scree, hands bleeding, equipment rattling. 20 meters, 10 meters. A bullet whined past Nathan's head. He turned, saw a sniper team on the western ridge, finally getting organized. The crosshairs would be on him right now. Finger tightening on the trigger, Ghost's rifle cracked. The enemy sniper dropped. Her voice came through, strained now. Get to cover. I'll suppress. They dove behind the rock formation as Ghost unleashed rapid fire, not her usual measured pace, but aggressive suppression. She was buying them seconds with bullets, spending her ammunition like currency to purchase their lives. I'm hit, she said suddenly, voice tight with pain. Nathan's blood turned to ice. Ghost. Status. Upper left shoulder. Through and through. Still operational. A pause. Mostly. Fall back to our position. Negative. You need covering fire for extraction. They held the rock formation for 40 minutes, trading fire with enemy forces while waiting for extraction. Ghost shooting had slowed not from lack of skill, but from blood loss. Nathan could hear it in her voice. The way words came slightly slower, harder. Finally, the blessed sound of helicopter rotors echoed through the valley. Extraction inbound, Nathan announced. Ghost, we're pulling you out. Mark your position. Silence. Ghost, respond. I can't, she said quietly. If I move, they'll overrun your position. Someone needs to maintain overwatch until you're clear. That's not how this works. We don't leave people behind. You're not leaving me behind. I'm making a tactical decision. Her voice hardened. Get your team on that helicopter, Commander. That's an order. You don't outrank me, no. But I outshoot you, a ghost of humor. Respect the expertise. The helicopter landed, rotors whipping dust into blinding clouds. Nathan's team started boarding, but he remained, staring at the ridge where Ghost had been positioned for hours. Marcus grabbed his arm. "Sir, we have to go." Nathan shook him off, keying his comms. "I need to know who you really are. Your actual designation." A long pause. Then, "My file is classified for a reason, Commander." "Tell me anyway." The helicopter pilot was shouting at them to board. Enemy fire intensified. They were out of time. Finally, Ghost spoke. 3 years ago, I was part of a Black Ops team. We got orders to eliminate a high-value target in a populated area. I confirmed the target was at a school. A school, Commander. But the orders came from someone with enough stars on their shoulders to make God think twice. Nathan's stomach dropped. I refused the mission. When my team went in anyway, I broke protocol. I warned the school, evacuated the children. Her voice was hollow now, distant. The target escaped. My team failed their mission. 3 of them died in the resulting firefight. You saved children's lives. I disobeyed direct orders and got my teammates killed. The military saw it as treason. I was court-martialed, dishonorably discharged. A bitter laugh. Then, 6 months later, a nameless agency found me. Said they needed someone who could shoot like a soldier but think like a human being. Someone who understood that following orders isn't the same as doing what's right. So they gave you a new identity. They gave me Viper. The name hit Nathan like a physical blow. Viper. He'd heard rumors, whispered stories of a ghost operative who worked impossible missions, who appeared in war zones like a phantom and disappeared just as quickly. The Pentagon wouldn't confirm or deny her existence. Some said she was propaganda. Others said she was the most lethal sniper in modern warfare. You're her, Nathan breathed. You're actually her. Now you understand why I can't tell you my real name. That person doesn't exist anymore. She died the day she chose conscience over obedience. The helicopter couldn't wait any longer. Nathan made a decision he'd regret for the rest of his life. He boarded, watching Ghost's position shrink as they lifted off. But they got new orders before reaching base. Emergency priority. Colonel Volkov was moving his offensive forward, targeting a refugee camp housing 2,000 civilians. Artillery units were being positioned for a dawn bombardment. We have to stop them, Nathan told the pilot. Redirect to the refugee camp coordinates. Sir, we're not equipped for an assault. We need to link up with... There's no time. Those people will be dead in 3 hours. The pilot exchanged looks with his co-pilot, then banked hard. Your call, Commander. Nathan opened the team channel. All units, priority update. We have a civilian massacre in progress. I need volunteers only. This is going to be bad. Every member of his team responded immediately. Then another voice joined the channel, weak, but determined. Don't start the party without me. Ghost? Nathan's heart leaped. How are you? Stole an enemy motorcycle. Lost a lot of blood, but I can still shoot. A pause. Those are families in that camp, Commander. Children. I'm not letting another school get bombed while I'm still breathing. They converged on the refugee camp from different vectors. The situation was worse than intelligence had suggested. Volkov hadn't just brought artillery, he'd positioned 20 armored vehicles in a perimeter, planning to shell the camp, then move in with infantry to eliminate survivors. It was systematic, calculated, evil. Nathan's team of 5 operators against 20 vehicles and over 100 enemy combatants. The math was impossible. But they had Viper. She'd positioned herself on a hillside overlooking the enemy formation, her silhouette barely visible in the pre-dawn gloom. Nathan could see blood soaking through her shoulder, her movements slower, but her rifle was steady. I can take out the artillery spotters, she said through comms. Without them, they'll be firing blind. But it won't stop the assault. Nathan studied the terrain, formulating a desperate plan. If we create chaos in their rear positions, make them think they're being flanked by a larger force, they'll pull back to defend, Marcus finished. It's crazy enough to work. One problem, Viper interjected. The moment we open fire, Volkov will order the artillery to fire immediately. He won't care about accuracy, he'll just want the camp destroyed before he retreats. Silence as they processed this. Unless someone takes out Volkov first, Viper said quietly. Nathan looked at the enemy command vehicle, surrounded by guards and armored units. That's a 300-meter shot through hardened glass into a moving vehicle. 340 meters, Viper corrected. Wind from the east at 8 clicks. Temperature differential will affect bullet trajectory by 0.03 degrees. A pause. It's possible. Possible isn't good enough. If you miss, I won't miss. The certainty in her voice. She wasn't being arrogant. She was stating a fact. Nathan gave the order. His team opened fire on the enemy rear positions, grenades and automatic weapons, creating the impression of a much larger force. Chaos erupted as enemy units scrambled to respond. In the confusion, Viper lined up her shot. Through her scope, she watched Colonel Volkov in his command vehicle, barking orders into a radio. He was older than she expected, gray-haired, almost grandfatherly, probably had children, maybe grandchildren. She thought about the 43 people in the market, her mother's smile, her father's terrible jokes, her brother's collection of toy soldiers that he'd line up on the kitchen table. She thought about the school she'd saved, the children who lived because she'd broken orders. She thought about the 2,000 people sleeping in tents below, unaware that their lives hung on a single bullet. Her finger touched the trigger. 1 breath. 2 breaths. The math was perfect in her head. Windage, elevation, the rotation of the earth itself. All of it calculated in microseconds, a symphony of physics and instinct. She fired. The bullet crossed 340 meters in less than a second. It punched through the command vehicle's window, through Colonel Volkov's skull, through the radio he was holding. He slumped forward, dead before his brain could process the impact. Target eliminated, Viper reported, her voice distant, automatic. But she'd been spotted. Enemy forces identified her position, redirected fire toward her hillside. Bullets chewed up the ground around her. She rolled behind cover, but there was nowhere to go. She was pinned, bleeding, and surrounded. Ghost, fall back, Nathan commanded. Negative. She was breathing hard now, shock setting in. Keep them focused on me. Get those families out. We're not leaving you. You already left me once, Commander. Don't waste my second chance. She rose from cover, exposed herself deliberately. Enemy forces concentrated fire on her position. It was suicide, but it kept their attention away from the refugee camp as Nathan's team began evacuating civilians. Viper fired methodically, each shot carefully placed, despite the pain, despite the blood loss, making her vision swim. She was buying time with her life, spending it generously because it was the only currency that mattered. A bullet caught her in the leg. She dropped, rifle clattering away. Through blurred vision, she saw enemy soldiers advancing up the hillside toward her. This was it, then. The end of Viper. She thought it was fitting, somehow. She'd lived as a ghost. Now she'd die as one. The sound of helicopter rotors. Not evacuation gunships. 2 of them, rising over the ridgeline like avenging angels. Their miniguns opened fire, tearing through enemy positions with devastating efficiency. Someone had called in the cavalry. Hands grabbed her, Nathan and Marcus, pulling her toward cover. Stay with us, Ghost. That's an order. She wanted to tell them she wasn't Ghost anymore. She wasn't Viper. She wasn't even the medical student who died in that market. She was just tired. Number, part 10. The name carved again. 500 words. She woke in a field hospital, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Her shoulder and leg were bandaged, IV drips running clear fluids into her veins. Everything hurt with a distant, chemical quality. Nathan sat beside her bed, looking like he hadn't slept in days. The refugees? She asked, her voice raspy. Safe, all of them. He leaned forward. Because of you. Because you refused to let another innocent person die. She closed her eyes. How many did I kill? This mission, does it matter? It always matters. She looked at him. 19. I killed 19 people. I remember every shot, every face, when I could see them. Her voice cracked. I'll remember them forever, Commander. That's the price. Nathan was quiet for a long moment. The price of saving 2,000 lives? That's a price I'd pay every time. Would you? She held his gaze. Would you really? Could you close your eyes at night and see their faces? Feel their lives end in your crosshairs? Because I do. Every single one, and they never go away. He reached out, took her hand. Then carry them. Remember them. Let them remind you why you made those choices. You didn't kill for revenge or politics or following orders. You killed to protect the innocent. That matters. Tears ran down her face, the first emotion she'd shown since they'd met. I'm so tired of being Viper. Then don't be. Be whoever you need to be. Over the following weeks, her story spread through military channels. Not the official version that remained classified, but the truth, whispered between operators who'd been there, who'd seen what she could do. They said she was a ghost who protected the living. A sniper who shot with precision but chose her targets with conscience. Someone who understood that the measure of a soldier wasn't how well they followed orders, but how wisely they chose which orders to follow. The media eventually got wind of the story. Not the details, but the legend. Headlines appeared. Female sniper saves thousands. Articles speculated about her identity, her background. Some called her a hero. Others called her a vigilante who'd violated chain of command. She didn't read any of it. Nathan visited her one final time before her deployment to a new assignment. He brought something wrapped in cloth, a patch, custom made. It bore a simple design, a viper coiled around a medical caduceus. For the person you were, and the person you became, he said. She stared at it, then looked up at him. You know I can't wear this officially. I know. But maybe, somewhere private, you can remember that you're more than just a weapon. You're someone who heals with one hand and protects with the other. She smiled small, genuine, the first real smile she'd given in years. Thank you, Commander. Nathan. My name is Nathan. Then thank you, Nathan. She held the patch carefully, for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. In a small military cemetery, there's an unmarked stone. No name, no dates. Just a simple inscription. You don't even look like a sniper, but she was the deadliest one. Those who know say it's not a grave. It's a memorial to the person who died in that market, and a monument to who rose from those ashes. Somewhere in the world, in another war zone, another mission, there's a woman with pale gray eyes and a rifle. She moves like smoke. She shoots like winter, and she remembers every single face. That's not a burden. That's not trauma. That's humanity. And as long as she keeps it, she'll never become the thing she fights against. The patch is sewn inside her vest, where no one can see it, but she knows it's there. A reminder that before Viper, there was a girl who wanted to save lives. She still does. She just found a different way.